they're not necessarily my favorite. I'm like, I have a love-hate with all of them. It all depends what my part is in it all. So
there you go. We have a love-hate relationship with every time. Listen, in that there's a single-family residential, multi-family residential, townhomes, condos, commercial, industrial. There's a lot of ways to make money in real estate. We focus on the accidental landlord, the home buyer who purchased a property and did not plan on turning it into an investment, but now realizes they'd like to hold on to it, and they are not professional investors. These are your average Joe Schmo, Jill, Jane, I don't know, I got to come up with some new names that are out there that are hardworking people, just like you, if you're probably listening to this, who are thinking, can I turn my property into an investment? Now, when we're interviewing you, you're interviewing us, we're also interviewing you. And that's not just because we want to decide, do we want to work with you per se, but we also need to know, what is your level of risk and stress. All right. So if we have a very nervous client who wants to invest, we know that that could be problematic, and we're going to want to steer them to the kind of properties that are going to cause them the fewest phone calls and the least amount of headaches. So Adriana, my lead property manager, is on with us today, and we're going to talk about the levels of risk with each residential type of management. Good morning.
good morning.
So
Let's do it.
let's do it. I'm going to ask you that question. When we look at properties of control, and for a lot of people control, which ones do we have the least amount of control on when it comes to investing and managing?
A COA and HOA.
Let's start with COAs first. COA stands for
Condo
Owners Association.
There you go. I know it. I'm like, Homeowners Association. It just does not want to come out for condos.
It's early and we're still pumping coffee. So yeah, condo associations are the least amount of control, and that is why. Why would you think that's the least amount of control?
That is the least amount of control. It's very similar to multi-units. They're clustered one on top of the other. There's many more rules to follow, and they have their own management teams. There's different things like we had said in a previous discussion with like elevators, moving in, moving out, there's time restrictions as well. That's a little bit tighter than say HOAs. So there's a lot more there's many more moving parts with a COA versus an HOA.
Yeah, there's a lot of control that you take out when you own a condo. You technically are owning the airspace in the walls. When you buy a condo, you are not buying a building, you're buying airspace within the building. The entire building itself is owned in the aggregate by all of the condo owners. And as such, you rise and fall together on the income and expenses that are brought in. So there's very little control. And we were talking about that with the Florida market recently, with the changing of the laws, and they're re-inspecting condo owners who've just been plugging along, all of a sudden are being handed with mega bills to take care of problems in the property. And they don't have any choice. You cannot opt out. So the benefits of condos are, there's a lot of them, very turnkey, easy to comp. The negatives are you are dealing a lot with management, which means that you're not just buying the condo, you're buying the rule package. So the second one you mentioned, Adriana, was homeowner associations. So they're like a step down from the amount of control. Tell us a little bit of the difference between like how you have a little bit more control, but they have control still in an HOA.
So with the HOA, oftentimes it is very simple. Once we get our lease signed, I send it over to the manager. If they have any paperwork, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It all depends how lax the HOAs are. And there's some HOAs that are more lax than others. That is also a difference between COAs. Most COAs can't afford to be lax. So when I'm dealing with an HOA, many times, more than not, I send them the lease. I sign whatever paperwork. They have my contact information, and we're good until the annual inspections. Unless there is some other issue that's happening in the community, they'll send me their information. I'll send it to the tenant, let them know, hey, trash has been delayed or power washing, et cetera, et cetera. So it can be much more lax in that sense. I get, if anything, more complaints with properties I've managed in COAs than I have in HOAs. noise complaints, again, because of the timing restrictions, guests, parking. And that kind of, whenever there's an issue in an HOA or a COA, they always look at the tenants first. They take the person, that is owner occupied's word at a stronger, they hold that strong, closer than, let's say, the tenants. So there can be back and forth with both, but HOA overall as a whole, it's more set it and forget it until they do their rounds for inspecting the properties to make sure that each is, being maintained. The exteriors are being maintained as they are supposed to be by the rules and regs. So.
Yeah, so there's that control issue, right? Where townhomes a little less control than a condo, but again, it all depends on the particular HOA for a townhome or single family home. We've seen ones where it's down to what kind of plantings you can put in front of the buildings, and we've had others where it's like, hey, as long as trash is not left out on a Tuesday night and they maintain some common area space. So again, your mileage may vary, and I think there is a lot of investors out there who are not putting in the time, energy, and effort to really realize where they're buying into. And we see that a lot, especially with people who are investing from out of area or out of state. They take expensive money from New York, they bring it down, they can leverage good money from New York to Philly or the suburban Philadelphia market. But they don't know the market. They don't know their numbers. They don't have a team built out. And we find a lot of pie in the sky, and they can all of a sudden find themselves in a condo or HOA. We had this happen. We got hired for short-term rental management, and when did they find out? When did they finally realize they couldn't do it in this townhome? It was after settlement, wasn't it?
Way after settlement. He had it up and got busted. Like, hey, we saw that you had this up on whichever platform. That's not allowed here. The shortest that's allowed is 6 months.
Yeah, in all fairness, we didn't help them purchase this property. We were just contacted for short-term rental management after the fact. But I was like, how did you get this far? And listen, I'm not here to denigrate any realtors, but you had realtors available on both sides, listing and buying. And I'm trying to understand, like, either this buyer never told his agent, hey, I'm looking to turn this into a short-term rental. Or worse, what really concerns me is this person said they were doing this as an investment for short-term rental, and the agent didn't care because in the end, all they care about is the commission, right? They want to get to the sale, and after that is not their problem.
Well, Chris, I'm going to slow you down there because I'm not 100% sure there was agents on either side because this was a new build. They do not usually pay agents, and if they do, they give them like $500.
There you go. And there you go. So, this was what we saw as the negative of this ridiculous market with the 3% rates. We saw some new townhome developments that were just being bought 60, 70, 80% by investors, which in Pennsylvania was rare. Florida, we get it. Up there in PA, that was not normal. And now we know why so many of them are upside down and struggling. So. Yes.
So, and that brings up a valid point. When you are buying a new build without an agent, you don't necessarily know the questions to ask. Now, I believe many people go into it buying it and they think it's no different than buying a single family home outside of a private community, but it's very, very different. So definitely you want to look at the rules and regs and ask as many questions, and it might even be in your best interest to hire an agent as a consultant if you're doing, if you're buying a new build and you're very green and you don't know what you should be looking for or asking. And then actually, I apologize, that reminded me of another thing with the HOAs and the COAs. Oftentimes when I need to schedule work, it's not very cut and dry. I have to talk to the managers and the front desks who's going to let you in. And I don't have that issue with the HOAs. I schedule that. I can leave a lockbox at the property if that's what's better for us and the tenant and everybody involved. But scheduling work is a absolute root canal in a COA.
Hey, listen, this is a good example. We manage a condo in a development that used to be apartments.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were apartments, one water line fed every 4 units, and they didn't care because it was an apartment. Well, it got converted to condos 3 decades ago, and no one thought to split these water lines up. So you understand, if there is a water line problem, a bathroom issue in one unit, we have to shut all 4 units down. Now, you want to talk about herding cats. So if you are someone who likes control, and we see this, stay out of COAs, condo associations, stay out of HOAs, stay out of mobile home parks. What is the most optimal investment for somebody who wants control?
Single family homes.
Single family residence and non-HOA single family homes.
Correct. Not private communities.
Sorry. Let me clarify. Detached single family homes in non-HOA neighborhoods. Those are the ones where, yeah, you take the risk that someone might park their RV next to the home. That's the one where you risk they could store a bunch of motorcycles and boats in front of the yard. I mean, yeah, you get those risks with single family homes. But again, price, location, condition, if you're buying the right location, you're probably going to be okay. So you need to think about that. I used to take it very personally when I could not connect with certain clients. I realize now that we just weren't the right personality fits. There are people out there who absolutely want control. And it is very difficult to hire property management if you're a control freak. And what we try to teach our clients, who are mostly accidental landlords, is that you don't need to have control. You need to put the right team in place, let them do their job, sit back and collect the checks. Though we don't even mail checks anymore. It's sit back and collect the ACH deposits.
Yeah, your direct deposit. Absolutely. What we focus on here is turnkey property management. And if we can't, as professionals, take on the property and direct you, it slows the process down and it makes things much more complicated and difficult. And it's really not then turnkey management. That's more of an assistant. I went through this recently, with a client that thought they wanted turnkey property management, but what they really wanted was just an arm in between to kind of facilitate and to report back and give the play-by-plays. Not to sound as snarky in any way, that's not what we do here. And reason being is it would take forever to get anything done. And oftentimes there's a lot of learning in between when you're new. And that's also, I love teaching clients, and I have no issue carving out separate time for that, where we can go over what happened and the pros and the cons and all that. But during the middle of the workday, when there's an emergency to have to stop and wait and call and go back and forth, that's not what we're here to do. We're here to facilitate and manage this property for you, so you can be wherever you are in the world without a worry.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that problems won't come up. Problems happen, but it's how we can react to those problems and also not put you into panic mode, because we have the time, energy, and experience to really know how to investigate something, find out the information before we share that with you. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I think that was a good meeting this way. I appreciate it. And if you have any questions or interested in full turnkey property management, reach out to Andronna at Big Realty.